What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to Comic Breakdown. If you guys are new to the channel, do me a favor and hit that sub button. Hit that notification bell, make sure you're not missing any of the awesome content that we have coming out. And with this video, we are jumping into the 10 Lives of Wolverine. This will be issue number 4, and if you have not been keeping up with this series, go ahead, check out the link in my description as well as the top of this video. It's gonna get you completely caught up on everything that has been going on with this event. When it comes to the 10 Lives of Wolverine, what we have seen is Professor X has been sending Wolverine through time, sending him to his more or less past lives. He is doing this because Omega Red, he is out there trying to assassinate Xavier and any of his relatives, any of his ancestors, all in an attempt to wipe him from existence. And to be honest, I was really expecting issue number 4 to begin crossing over with the 10 Deaths of Wolverine, with that series being more of a Moira limited series than anything else. But so far, we have not gotten the crossover, and we'll talk more about that once we get towards the end of this issue. Be sure to buy the comic, support the industry, and with that being said, let's dive into this breakdown. Alright gang, so as we dive into this issue, we are picking up years ago at the Weapon X facility. Back in these days, they were trying to perfect Wolverine, to make him the ultimate weapon. And through these times of experimentation, there was something very unique that they found in his blood. Some kind of impurity, almost appearing as a parasite underneath a microscope. The doctor wants to try to figure out any way of ridding his body of this parasite. Of course, the doctor not knowing at the time, this is symbiote. And as Logan is experimented on, this is when Omega Red makes his entrance. Omega Red taking over the doctor, having Logan on the table. Omega Red can literally do anything he wants. And Red has come here specifically to take Wolverine off of the board, with Xavier sending a weapon after Omega Red through the timeline. Omega Red figures he might as well go to the source of the problem. And so while Logan deals with experimentation, we are taken to 1945, an Imperial Army base in Japan. With Japan preparing their attack, we see all of the pilots hopping into their aircrafts and they take off. Omega Red taking over one of these pilots. They all take to the sky and they go to make their attack. And as they are approaching all of the carriers and all of the battleships, the sirens go off. The battle is about to begin, and this is where we see Wolverine coming in on a Canadian fighter. He is here to take out as many pilots of the Japan Army as he can. And while Wolverine is jumping all around the timeline, while he's jumping into all of his different lives, trying to protect any kind of ancestors of Charles, his parents, his grandparents, whatever the case may be. While he is doing this, Jean Grey and Xavier, they have a psychic conversation about how essentially to fix the continuity. Because right now, jumping all over the timeline, making all of these changes, doing all of this craziness, it obviously is going to affect the timeline. It's going to affect Marvel continuity. And their way around this, their way of avoiding affecting any real damage, is to mind wipe anybody who is connected to this. Anybody who is affected in any sort of way. It will be Jean Grey's job to go up, clean up this mess, and wipe their memories. And while that is a very easy and quick patch for Marvel to do, it's going to be very interesting to see if Jean Grey is actually able to get everybody mind wiped, or if there's going to be those few individuals who don't get mind wiped. They know the truth, and it will only add to the downfall of mutant kind. And as that conversation begins to come to its end, we are taken to Colombia, where Omega Red, he has taken over Wolverine, looking like this might be the end of Charles, looking like this might be done with. We see Sabretooth, him and Wolverine, they were on Team X together. Sabretooth believes that he is running away from Team X, going to hunt him down, going to bring him back in, to get him reprogrammed and back on track. As they go toe to toe, as this confrontation goes on, he is trying to tell Sabretooth to help me kill him. You don't understand the ramifications of letting him live. They not only affect me, but they also affect you as well. Now, of course, this is Omega Red speaking through Wolverine, but Sabretooth, he doesn't know that. He has no clue what is going on. He just knows that there is something wrong with him. Something is different about him. And so as they try to figure out that situation, we are taken back to the Weapon X facility, with Omega Red just torturing the heck out of Logan, taking this opportunity to finally wipe him off the chessboard, throwing him into a pit, and this is where he is supposed to essentially turn to Ember, turn him to ash. At least that is his hopes, that is what he is wanting to do here. The only thing is, Omega Red had no clue about Venom, about the symbiote that is inside his blood cells. And I think it's kind of cool that they brought in the symbiote, that they brought in Venom, because they do have a relatively close relationship when we're talking about the Weapon X facility. And so with Venom taking over, Omega Red just realized how deep in water he really is, with him thinking that this might be a relatively easy win for him. That's simply not the case. And this is where in the comic we begin to jump between the three events. In 1945, we have Omega Red trying to kamikaze one of these battleships, the one that Xavier's father is on board. In Columbia, Sabretooth and him, they are having their battle, and at the Weapon X facility, the Doctor is running for his life after Omega Red has left his body. Omega Red quickly recognizing he's not going to win this fight, that he'll go find somewhere else in the timeline to deal with this. And as we jump through these three events, Logan is really letting us know that throughout his entire lifetime, through every challenge that he has faced, through every era that he has endured, for every war that he has fought on the wrong side of, he has finally found something that he truly believes in, and that is Krakoa. That is the hope that mutant kind can have their own nation, that they can all restart and be somebody else. Nobody else more than Logan wants a good restart, wants the opportunity to truly erase the bad trauma of their past, to replace all of their bad deeds with something good, leaving behind some kind of legacy that can be remembered, with Wolverine taking out the fighter jet, with Sabretooth ripping out the heart of Wolverine, and with Omega Red no longer in the Weapon X facility. These three events in time have been saved, with the kamikaze attack failing to die honorably. This obsession and shame and revenge, it gave birth to Lady Deathstrike. The symbiote couldn't be weaponized because it couldn't be trained or controlled. And so instead of trying to use Venom, trying to use the symbiote, they went ahead and they went with the adamantium. And then Sabretooth ripping out the heart of Wolverine, dragging him back to Team X so he can get reprogrammed. And at least for the time being, Charles Xavier and his existence, they are preserved. They are saved throughout the entire timeline. The only issue is they might have lost contact with the consciousness of Wolverine, because Omega Red going into the consciousness of Wolverine, it was like someone wrestled the car wheel away from her, and now she's trying to grab hold of it. The only issue is they have been going for days at this point. No sleep, no eat. They have just been fixated on Wolverine and protecting his consciousness throughout the time stream. With Charles vowing that they will find him, he begins to sense something, leaning in closer, seeing if Logan can hear him, trying to reach out and touch him. As Wolverine lays here on this table, we see Omega Red take him over, and in a split second, Wolverine, he gets his claws out. Having no control over his body, Omega Red thrusts those claws straight into the chest of Charles Xavier. We see Rasputin give him a couple of words, saying greetings from Russia. And that will be the end of this issue. So let me know what you guys think down in the comments. You know, like I've said before, when it comes to the 10 lives and the 10 deaths of Wolverine, the 10 lives is not nearly as good. 10 deaths is vastly superior when it comes to these two events. You know, if this were just a Wolverine line and not a Marvel event, an X-Men event, I might say that it's pretty good and it's a little bit fun. But the truth is, as an X-Men event, in comparison to all the other events, the 10 lives has been kind of boring. And yeah, it's cool to see them go into these different time eras and see Wolverine throughout his entire history, but the truth is, they've really played this out over 4 issues. And like I said in the beginning, I truly did expect this to cross over with the 10 deaths. You know, with only one more issue in both of these storylines, you would think that they're going to cross over pretty heavily, especially you have 10 deaths and 10 10 lives in both of your titles, like hidden away, reversed underneath your main title. So the idea that you only go to issue 5 to do a crossover, and that's to say, even if they do a crossover at all, we could get to issue 5 and find out that they're not actually crossing anything over, which will be a big disappointment if that is the case, but I'm really hoping that we have some kind of small crossover connecting these two events together. But the one good thing you can take away from all of this is Benjamin Piercy is finally moving the plot forward. Everything has been building up for essentially the last year. We have been building up to something, but they have been hesitant to jump into that water and actually go for it. Whether it's received poorly or greatly, at least Benjamin Piercy is moving everything forward and forcing all of X-Men to go into the next era. You know, we talked about how this is the second Krakoan age, and it seems to be moving at a very rapid pace. This is all going to be pushing us into Destiny, Immortal X-Men, you know, all the stuff that is going to be coming here in the near future. I haven't really checked out the solicitations. I don't really like doing that because I don't like to spoil the fun on what is currently happening in comics. Because if I go and read the solicitations, I'm gonna know what's happening. I'm gonna see people still alive or not alive or whatever the case may be. So I try to avoid reading too far ahead into the storylines and just focus on what is currently happening. And I try not to be too overly critical on the 10 lives of Wolverine, but in comparison to the 10 deaths, the 10 lives really is just an insignificant story. Maybe it's gonna be closing out the whole ordeal with Russia, but Benjamin Piercy also might be trying to now stay away from the Russia conflict, dilemma, so on and so forth, because of the real life stuff that is going on with Ukraine and Russia. You know, kind of walked himself into some political hot water, depending on how you look at it. Now, me personally, I don't really care. You know, make Russia the bad guy all you want. And regardless of real world implications, Russia has been playing a big part in X-Men for quite some time. And Omega Red, more than anything, he's being used and manipulated by both sides. Rasputin has used him because he was used and abused by Charles Xavier. Using his want of revenge, having the Cerebro sword in his chest, this gives Rasputin the ability to find that connection to Charles and do exactly what he did in this issue. I just feel bad for Omega Red. The guy has gone through so much, he really did believe that he was going to have a new start. The Krakoa was going to be something better. But at the end of the day, Charles and Rasputin, they are both just screwing him over. And at this point, I'm rooting for Omega Red just to get some peace, just so he can be left alone and have his tranquility. But yeah, let me know your thoughts. Let me know your theories. If you have not yet, do me a favor, hit that sub button, hit that notification bell, make sure you're not missing any of the awesome content that we have coming out, and until the next breakdown.